All right, everybody, let me define the problem here. This bank of sprinkler heads is super low flow. This has 4 different sprinkler zones, and I cannot get hardly any pressure. So, what I know is that the main PVC line that feeds this bank of 4 valves comes from this direction. And I know that it goes this way, and I've dug down, but I don't exactly know it turns and how deep it is. So in this video, I am going to use my new Milwaukee pipeline detector with a new mini sonde, which is a radio frequency emitter. This radio frequency emitter is only 9 millimeters, so I can put this on just an electrical snake line or anything, and I can push it up this pipe this way. And using the Milwaukee detector, I can be led exactly to where the radio frequency emitter is, and I can know exactly how deep it is. I can then mark the ground, dig in the appropriate places, and find out where my problem is. I've already opened up this pipe right before it comes into the manifold, and when I turn the water on, it is extremely low flow and low pressure. So I know that the problem lies somewhere between this manifold and the source of the water. Well, as you know, all projects must start somewhere, and it's usually at the beginning. The picture I just showed you was after I'd done this work. But here I am, late one night. The wife and kids are in Florida on vacation, and so I had a few days before I was meeting them out there, and I figured I'd get started on this. I'm going to try and salvage some of these decorative rocks, and I'm not just going to go in there guns a-blazing, and I'm going to try and peel back the landscape paper and do this the nice way. My wife Anna always makes fun of me that every time I do a project, I end up breaking something or making things massively worse. But the end result is it looks good. So in this video, you'll mostly see me doing a mix of Mecalac work and a lot of digging and a little bit of tractor work, but just chronicling this fix of my sprinkler system. So I'm trying to figure out what to do with all this dirt, and initially I'm thinking, oh, I'm going to keep it all in this bucket. I won't get dirt everywhere and my wife won't get too upset. And this was my initial attempt just to see if it would work. And my thought was I'd put everything that I shovel into this bucket and put it over into my skid steer bucket, and then I could haul the skid steer bucket off to a certain place. But we'll see how that goes throughout the course of this. All right, now that I've gotten the pipe exposed by hand, I get to do the fun stuff, the big, easy stuff, the stuff that the Mecalac does. I just love using these machines because you really do feel like you can do so much and be so gentle and accurate and precise by using these hydraulic machines. Okay. These 4 valves have very low pressure. So I'm about 3 feet deep in this hole with the help, a little bit of help with the Mecalac and the John Deere. Expose this pipe. This is the riser feeding this bank, and there's either a blockage in this shut-off valve here, or maybe a blockage here, or what I'm concerned about is there's a leak somewhere down in this bigger line. So I'm gonna look here first and see if this shut-off valve, I can just maybe cut it out and put a new one on and see if that changes anything. But if not, I'm gonna have to snake this, and if that's clear, I'm gonna have to snake that. Most likely I'm gonna have to tear this whole thing off, cut this piece out, and I'm gonna have to locate, I'm gonna have to do a sonde location of this pipe and see if it has a blockage or a break somewhere. So that's what I'm about. Never done this before, but it's all piping. It's all the same. Start with the easiest and work your way up. All right, welcome to project day number 2. I've already gotten started by snaking this line a little bit and started working on practicing with this sonde locator. Right there. This thing. No! Just sprayed my freaking thing. That ain't cool. So there is an indention in the grass. Right here, which is where the sewer pipe goes. So if there's a leak, it might be following this path going up and down this pipe. So I'm going to push it a little bit further. See if it I'm going to see if sorry, I only got that first one. I didn't see the second one, period. I'll go put the orders in for the second one. All right. Let's see. All right. All right, right there. Well, I think I might need to dig there. We'll see. hanging up on something there. So that may be where I need to dig. Right there in the rocks, lovely. So there's like a bend right here. Just gonna mark it the whole way. Okay, well, I've traced the line. It's nice and open all the way up to here, but I can tell there's a sinkhole here, so there's a problem. Water is getting here for some reason. And this pipe kind of comes around and I can't get it past here. So I don't, this might be a 45, maybe. I don't know, but I've gotten there. I think there might be a 45 here and a 45 there. I hesitate to dig here because I have to move all the rocks, get that rock out. I'm gonna have to pull up, you know, it's gonna mess with this sprinkler head. I'm gonna have to probably move. Man, I just do not want to do that. But it's better to do the thing than live in the fear of that thing. So let's get to it. The old Mecalac's going to do some work today. Alright, this is me still trying to be cute by moving around my bucket, still trying to keep the dirt, for the most part, off the driveway. Anyway, you can see me fail on this part. I just don't have a great way to pick up this big old bucket. And fail. Well, good morning and welcome to another day of This Crap Will Never End. At least that's the way I'm feeling this morning. But it's beautiful and peaceful, and hopefully I can get something done today. Guess we'll see. So I'm just trying to expose this little pipe here. On the day prior, I was able to find this. I couldn't pass the radio transmitter sonde past this point. So I thought maybe there was a blockage or a break in the pipe. Turns out it's just so I'm doing all this hand digging, filling in a few low spots. Doing this little part of exposing this. And I'm going to expose it so that I can open it up and push the sonde locator further towards the source of the water and see where the blockage might be. So at this point I'm tired of having to go through my downstairs to get to the water shut-off valve. So I'm opening up this crawl space so I can just go there anytime I want. I don't have to go into our renter's space. So at this point, this is the only pipe that I've cut, and this is where I'm getting that super low flow. I'm still trying to locate if there is a rock or an obstruction in here, or if there's a break in the pipe. All right, the system has been drained. So there's no leak there. My snake is having a hard time getting through this 45. So potentially it is obstructed, but I doubt it. Not obstructed. So now I have to snake it back further that way. Feeling no obstructions. I see no leaks. I have no clue what's going on. It's starting to get sticky. Guess I can look for it. See how far I am. At this point, I'm just trying to expose this pipe a little bit better so I can glue in a new shutoff valve right here. Trying to isolate some of these sections so I can determine if this is a good section or if this is a bad section. And I still don't 100% know exactly where these lines go and where the source comes from. Here's some little contraptions that I welded just so I could drive over this curbing. This stuff without rebar just cracks super easily even with my little tractor. So this is how I get into my rock beds. So at this point, I'm trying to keep most of this clay-filled dirt off of my grass because it just packs down so much, it kills the grass, and then it takes a long time to grow that back. So this is what I've got as the idea, and you'll quickly see that this just does not work out for me. I can do 3 small buckets. I'm still dropping a ton on the grass. So I need to come up with a different solution. When you do stuff by hand, you just have a lot of precision, but it takes so long. when you do stuff with a machine like this, you break stuff and you tear stuff up. So this is what I'm about to find out. Oh my gosh. It's ruined that box. I'm finding out it's just sometimes easier to just go in, break what you need to, fix it because it's all out in the open, as opposed to tinkering around with tiny little spaces. So right here I'm pulled up alongside my curbing, and I'm using the offset function of the mid boom. This allows me to dig parallel to where I am, but I'll offset a little bit to the right. You can see that that results in sort of a slightly different angle, and that depends on how far you move the main boom out. It will have an angle like down to the left, sometimes it'll be down to the right, so you just have to work with it. It's not a perfect machine. Everything has its limitations, but certainly allows you to get in some good tight spots. Okay, here's what I found out. So this runs all the way that way, no problem. And so the actual problem is over here where it comes out, right there where that orange is. There's a blockage somewhere between here and going that way. So I'm just gonna dig this up, and I don't care about the rocks. I'll try and save the curbing, because that's hard to get done around here. I'll just peel this up. It's already cracked, I can see it. Just gonna crack it more. Maybe I can get under it a little bit more. I'm gonna have to redo a lot of this stuff. That was already cracked. I didn't do it. Get away just a little bit. I mean, I don't know what else to do. This is just all I can do. Section's gonna get a big redo. Just takes too long. I don't wanna. Gonna be some irrigation stuff in here. I know, yep, there's one right there. So it's about 2.5 feet down, so that's what my detector showed.
So you can see I finally got tired of trying to dump in that tiny little tractor bucket. I bought a few 2x4s and some plywood so I can dump all this, let it sit there and not worry about it killing the grass.
Pull this up, I'm just going to cut it. Did I get him in half? No. So I've been using water pressure either from a hose or really with a pressure washer to clean out dirt around pipes, and you don't end up breaking anything. You just scoop out the remainder of the dirt with a suction vacuum, or you dig a sump and dig it out with your machine. So right here, I am gonna put a 90-degree shutoff valve so that I can turn my sprinklers on and off without having to get into the crawl space every time. So my shutoff valve is gonna be located down a 4-inch PVC pipe or ABS pipe, whatever I chose, and I'll be able to do that with a T handle. Now I made a mistake here, and the mistake I am making is that I'm using a push to connect fitting instead of a glue-on fitting. And the problem here is when I put my T handle down on top of this push connector, that push to connect just kind of spins around the PEX pipe, this 1-inch PEX.
So I actually had to come up with a fancy way to fix it. And anyway, turned out just fine. Works very well. Doesn't
All
spin.
right, let's see.
It handles the T handle just fine. I'm able to turn it on and off.
I don't know if that's seated correctly. Okay. Well, that reaches. Just gotta connect those two.
So this is the last little bit that I did before I went down to Florida to meet up with my wife and kids. Spent about 4 days there. So I'd gone to Lowe's trying to get as many pieces as I could. Unfortunately, I didn't have all the right pieces because one of my fittings, even though it was in the 1 inch male adapter fitting, it ended up being a 3/4. So I couldn't quite get the plumbing all put back together, which was fine because it was already getting late. And it was about time that I got packed up and started getting ready to fly out the next day.
So this is the end of part one. I'm heading to Florida, meet up with my wife and kids, do a little vacation, and I'll finish this up when I get home.